Hello, hello, everyone. We are going to get started shortly. In the meanwhile, so today we're going to be talking about putting your words into actions with work sessions. So in the meanwhile, please invite your friends to the group. Remember, they have to be invited to the group before they can even tune into this live, and tag them so that they can join us in this discussion today. If you're catching us on replay, give us a hashtag replay so that we know that you watched today's session. We'll get started shortly. Let's see who we have. If you're here, give me a hey, Esma, how are you? If you're here, yeah, give me a howdy doody, how it's going. Feel free to drop in the chat box, some tips that you use for effective meetings. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about how we use work sessions in our organization. Hi, Junie. Oh, thanks, Esma. We're going to give it a few minutes before we get started. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about putting words into actions with work sessions, which I'm excited to talk about because, just talking about how we can move meetings into action, instead of just talking, how can we move it into action, immediate action? So we're going to talk about that. Uh-oh, Esma, I definitely understand, but we're glad you're able to tune in. I see you say you're backed up with paperwork. I get it. I'm so glad that you're able to tune in with us today. If you're here again, give us a hello in the chat. Invite your friends, tag them, and then we're going to get started in the next few minutes. All right, before we get started, I just want to thank this month's Nonprofit Live sponsor, Roots Art Store, for sponsoring this month's lives. If you're looking for personalized jewelry to show your loved ones appreciation, be sure to check them out. So thank you once again, Roots Art Store, for that. Hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you for joining us today. Hi, Kenny. Thank you for joining us. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about this topic of putting words into action with work sessions is one, we have a blog coming out soon with more tips. So you guys definitely check that out when it comes out. But I just recall a time in our organization where I know for me personally, I was going through a lot of one-on-one meetings, and some of the meetings had to do with one another. And it's like, I found my whole week in a bunch of one-on-ones, but with very little time to actually work and get things done. So what we ended up doing was turning these one-on-ones, I just turned them into what I call, work sessions, which some organizations use work sessions. They use a little bit differently. And this month, since our theme is program development, I thought this was a really good month to talk about this. So if you're a newer organization building your team, you are at the right place. So that way you have an idea and you can learn from the lessons that I've learned in order to make sure that you implement work sessions from the front end. And if you're an established organization, I hope that today you'll just think about your meetings and how effective your meetings are. Because we've all been there in the sense of going to meetings that we say it a lot, that could have been an email, or going to meetings feeling like, okay, it's just a pile of more work on top of work, and being unable to accomplish those things. So that's why work sessions have worked for our organization. So let me talk a little bit more about it. All right, so the goal is to move from all those one-on-ones, and I like to say, to the let's get it done type meetings, because one of the things is I want to caution you all as nonprofit leaders, if we keep having all of these meetings, we can find that the work is not getting done. And on top of it, you want to value not only your time, you want to value your team's time as well. So that's why I love work sessions. So work sessions are defined by the Project Management Institute as a highly organized, structured meeting with people who have a stake in the project with the purpose of working, wrestling through issues, making decisions, and documenting results towards the production of a specific work product. And if you use work sessions or any type of tips or strategies for your meetings, drop those in the chat as well, and I'll read them out in a few. So one of the things about the work sessions, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how our organization conducts work sessions. We pretty much have an agenda, typical, like your typical meeting. And the first thing we do is go down a list of all the things we need to discuss and all the things we need to get done by the end of the work session. So right now we host our sessions weekly. In the past, we've done it once a month and they were still just as impactful. So of course, you can do what works best for your organization. And it ensured that those, and one of the things we do is ensure that those heavily involved in the project are in attendance to these meetings. So meaning our marketing team will be in these meetings, our program team will be in the meeting, like everyone involved in the projects that we're discussing will be in the meeting. And that trimmed down the number of one-on-one meetings that we're having. And in that way too, if we need something from marketing, or we need, our program team has this coming up on a calendar, they need these things from marketing, they could say it right there on a call, in the meeting, give them what they need, and we can move this project forward. So that's one of the good things. Again, we kick it off by reviewing the projects that we will be diving in for the work session. We develop goals for what needs to be completed during the work session, along with what needs to be completed by the next work session. Then we get to work. So the cool thing about it is, once we have that meeting, we'll kind of tie, we'll say, okay, marketing and program, it looked like you all have a lot that you got to work on. After we go through this agenda, which normally the agenda portion probably takes us about, I'll say 30 minutes of the meeting. It's literally, this is where we are, any updates, this is what we got to get done. And then after that, we're going into work groups. So if we see that our marketing team member or one of our marketing team members, and let's say one of our program team members have a lot they need to get accomplished, after that, during the work session, they break out into those groups and work on those things right then and there, give each other what they need. One of the things I will say that we also do with the work session, so I'm just going to throw an example out there. Let's say we're working on our upcoming toy drive. So we have so much we need to get done in a toy drive. Marketing has things to do, program has some things to do, our volunteer management team has the volunteer component. That will be on our list. And then what will happen is, before we will all work on toy drive together, our portions of the toy drive, I should say, together. And what that does is, while we're working on it, number one, the conversation is aligned, because if marketing's working on toy drive, programs working on toy drive, while that's going on, if we need each other, the conversations are the same, get everyone what they need, and they can kind of move on the task. The next thing that we do to kind of move it along sometimes is, we don't move forward until everyone's done with, let's say, that example, that toy drive task. That's just the way that, and it worked for us, because now we chip in. If someone's having let's say they're having challenges with moving a certain part of the project forward, we'll hop in, help each other. And then now that's checked off our list, we can move on to the next project. So let me check in the chat box. If you have questions or anything, please, feel free to drop those questions in there. Hey, hi, Jonathan. Thank you for joining. Hi, Brandon. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, if you're here, just drop a hello for us in here. So I hope if that's making sense too, give me a thumbs up with these work sessions. So let's say we have that toy drive on there. We might have another program. I'm just going to think of one. I know this is far-fetched, back to school bash, but just because it came on the top of my head, or our college and career program. So we have toy drive. We just all worked as a group, got that done. Now we're moving into the next phase, which is everyone working on college and career related stuff, their portions. So that's how we do our work sessions. Doing this allows everyone to come ready, because guess what? The other thing too, we walk out this work session with with homework. So it's kind of like some things you're not going to get done during a work session, but it's like, okay, by this time next week, be ready, you know, we need to be able to move on. So then it kind of forces the team to know, okay, I can't walk into that work session next week and not have my portion of the project done, because I'm not going to be the one, you know what I mean? So that's the cool thing about it. So it forces you to kind of come ready. So, you know, like a perfect example, this afternoon, we have our work session. So the team knows, including myself, before I hop in there, I need to hurry up and get the thing, go look at my notes from the last work session and make sure I did my portion. So that's the cool thing about that. Everyone comes ready to collaborate. It reduces the number of meetings, meaning like even me doing one-on-ones, them doing one-on-ones with each other, because everyone knows come Thursday when we have our work session, you know, we'll be able to kind of catch up and talk to each other, even though there'll be emails and things in between, any follow-ups and stuff, they know come Thursday, we're going to be able to do that. And then the best feeling is leaving feeling accomplished. You leave the meeting not feeling like more things been thrown on your plate. Instead, you feel relieved knowing we did that, you know, yeah, I got a few things to go through, but together we were able to kind of put our minds together and move through these projects. So that's some of the really good things that having a work session does. Let's see how we doing. Hi, Maria. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Shamante. Hi, Sierra. Hi, Brandon. Hello, hello, everyone. Let me know, give me a thumbs up if this is making sense. If you have any questions, let me know. But I just really want us to think about our meetings that we're hosting as leaders, because it is true. Some meetings can be an email. Some meetings, you don't want to walk into a meeting and not feel like you've accomplished anything. I know I've been into meetings where I just felt overwhelmed by the time I left, in the sense of, you know, just more assignments being assigned versus things getting done. So that's why we do the work session. So a work session for us is a typical meeting. So the team is also used to, if it's not an urgent type of, you know, project or urgent issue, we'll talk about it on our work session. We just add it to our work session agenda. And then the cool thing about it, we actually use our project management system to develop because our project management system has a list of what everyone's working on. So we use that instead of creating an agenda. It's already there. We use that as our agenda. Okay, like, you know, hey, program development, what's going on? Y'all got the Canvas art class next week. You know, what do we need to do to push that forward? Oh, I'm waiting for marketing for this. Okay, we're going to do that today. So keep that in mind with the work sessions. Another trick that I will share with you all, I do this not only as a part of occasionally as a work session, but even just on my own. It's called the Pomodoro method, where when we go into that work session portion, we kind of block out 25 minutes. We going hard on this project, then we're doing a 5 minutes break. I do that even personally. I go 25 minutes on something I'm working on, 5 minute break. And that way, uninterrupted minutes. So everyone knows during that time frame, no interruption. We're working on our portion of project. During those breaks, we'll talk about anything that we need to, you know, grab a snack, whatever that looks like. And then we go into the method. That's how we really make use of our time. For right now, our sessions are 2 hours long. But they are powerful 2 hours. So that's why I thought it was important for us to talk about putting these words that we talk about in the meetings immediately into action. So is there any questions? Feel free to drop any question. I just wanted to talk about that. And if you have other methods, again, share that. And then also think about your meetings, you know, how can you make your meetings more intentional? How can you make them, how can you leave feeling accomplished? Use some of these tips that was shared. And I know that, you know, a work session does not work for every organization. Doing this type of, and even the style of it, you have to adapt it to your organization and what works best for you all, especially when it comes to schedules and so forth, but it's worked. Something I haven't shared too, we even do this with our volunteer teams. So we have monthly volunteer meetings, and it's the same thing because the volunteers work on different teams throughout the month. They're providing an update as to where we are. And then, we're talking about, okay, what do we need to do to move this project, these things forward? What do you need from us as a whole? So that's one of the things that we use it across the board, and it works. So with that, I was able to cut down all of these different, calls here, calls there, into one call, one big work session a week. So just something for you all to think of. So if you don't have any questions or anything, we like to leave these calls with homework. So as you all know, this month, our theme is program development and theory of change. If you have not watched our theory of change Nonprofit Enthusiast Live, please check that out. If you go into the group, you'll see that guide section. That guide section is amazing because you don't have to search through the group for what you're kind of looking for. You'll see it broken out into program development, marketing, and so forth. So check that out, and you'll see that theory of change from last week in there as well. So homework. Think about your program meetings and what strategies can you use to make them more effective. And if you're like, I am my program meeting, it's just me. Do you have volunteers? You can start this with your volunteer group. You can do this with your board. If you have a working board, this is a real effective way to run your board meeting. If they're the ones actually running, working the organization right now, you can do it with your board as well. So just let's think about that. That's our goal, is just think about what strategies can you include to make these more effective. And again, if it's just you, how can you build a team? And we actually have a, we call it our PPT training or webinar coming up next month that we'll start sharing the links and so forth. It's on our website. You definitely want to check that out. If you're just, I am the whole team, I'm telling you that webinar will get you kind of in motion and get you people, get you started with getting people in place to help you grow your team. So definitely check that out. As a reminder, we are going to have our fund development webinar coming up next week. You all don't want to miss it. So our free fund development webinar, please register, check it out if you have not attended one of our fund development webinars for your organization. And you all know that we always like to leave with a goal in mind. So as far as the group, so do you all think we can grow this group to 400 by our next live? I think we can. We've been doing really, really good. Actually, we've been exceeding our goals. You all think we can do it? I think we could do it. So let's set a goal of 400. And let me tell you how easy that is. You can take a moment right now, go to the top of the screen where it says invite, and just invite, let's say invite 10 people. Just check the boxes, click invite, and boom. So if we all each do that, we're definitely going to hit our 400 goal by our next live. So if there are no questions or anything, you all know how to find us. I'm going to go ahead and conclude today's session by thanking our sponsor once again. And y'all, please check out our sponsors because they really believe in the nonprofit community, and they continue to support us and allow us to do these weekly nonprofit lives. So please, check them out, support them. And we'll also share. So Roots Art Store, thank you once again for being a sponsor this month. If you have a business, or even if your nonprofit organization wants to become a sponsor for a month, send us send me a DM. You could DM me and we'll talk about how you can become a sponsor for our future sessions. So thank you all so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye, everyone.